Hello, and welcome back to my shitty little hideout. Today, I'm going to be doing a build diary review, I guess, of my 3.25 Settlers of Calgur League starter, as well as the character I've just been playing the entire time, because that's how I like to play. Um, the character is named EQ Slappy Goral. As you can see, it's an elementalist. I'm at level 98. I don't really plan on going up to 100. I die a lot because I do rippy map strategies. I do delirium. It kills me a lot. As you can see, I'm an elementalist. Not many people playing elementalist. I have brain rot, and I like damage over time, and I like elementalist. And we'll get over why I chose elementalist and why I choose Earth Quake in a bit. But first thing we're going to do is we're just going to jump right into a map showcase. So I have this Maze of the Minotaur map. A couple of damage mods, temp hit, the poison doesn't really matter, totems don't really matter. We're just going to go ahead and clear this. Should be fine as far as, like, maybe I'll get one shot on the boss, but who knows. My Ellie max hit's pretty high, my Fizz max hit should be high enough to take pretty much everything that Minotaur has. But I'll just talk you through how the build plays right now. It's really simple. I have two 6-links, so I have my Earthquake on 6-link in my body armor. And then in my weapon, which is a two-handed mace, I'll show you that when we go over the gear. I'm going to pick these up because I don't have the most money. I have Leap Slam. Leap Slam with Shockwave to be specific, and that's just for clear. Clearing with your movement ability is probably the nicest thing ever. Is that all of them? Yes. That's why I like Elementalist so much. I first started playing Elementalist when I started with Subtractum's Elementalist Frostblink Ignite build. One of my favorites. I didn't exactly start with that build, actually. I took the concept and I just kind of built it how I like to build my tree. I have always built left side from Elementalist. I think left side is infinitely better than the shenanigans that go on the right side. I thought this before damage conversion, and I still think it now. What do you got? What do you got in here? Nothing good. Yeah, I like to go left side. You don't really, it's literally like, for the most part, a one button build. One button for clearing, a different one for single target. Technically two buttons, but you could do single target, clear button too. You can use your war cries. I used my enduring cry on bosses, but here, look, he's not gonna do anything. Oh no, never mind, he killed me. Look at that. But it doesn't matter because we killed him anyways. I am going to go pick up that fragment because it's worth a little bit. And again, I don't really have that much money. I'm not like super rich. I've probably only made like 200 div this league. And I play a lot, so. But I'm also working on doing another build. But we'll just get right into the gear here and how it works, how the character works. We will go off somewhere where there's not a bunch of stuff here. Why don't we go up into here? Really simple. I think I use just this. This is my only unique equipment item, the Force Vow. I do use a few unique jewels, but otherwise it's pretty much all rares. Though they are kind of nice rares, like by my own standards. Pretty much everything's self-crafted, except for the rings, I think. No, I crafted these rings. I didn't craft this ring, but I crafted this ring, and everything else is self-crafted, except for this. This is not self-crafted. But two-handed, we're using a mace, specifically because we're using the new enchants, the runesmithing enchants, specifically the one that gives two-handed maces 30 to 50% of physical damage. So any local weapon damage is extra damage of each element. And as you can see, I have a pretty nice mace here. Um, Contempt spammed for the tier 1 hybrid. Um, and then you do prefixes can't be changed. Well, you have to make sure you have an empty suffix. You do prefixes can't be changed. Slam it with a Veil Orb. Hope you get that physical damage. Um, Obviously, this one's fractured. After that, I did another prefixes can't be changed. Augmented speed, landed the T2 attack speed first time. And I just crafted on fire damage over time. It's really simple. This mace probably took me maybe 40, 50 divines to craft. So it's not crazy cheap, but it's also not crazy expensive, you know. Um, Mapping for like, I don't know, 5 to 10 hours will probably get you enough currency to craft this. Um, but yeah, so this is our main source of damage. As you can see, average of like 700 damage, and then you get 135% of that more. Um, and this scales really well if we look at our passive tree here with Shaper of Flames, which is a elementalist ascendancy that makes it so all of your damage can ignite. So your physical damage, your lightning and cold damage, and your chaos damage. I don't really have any chaos damage on my build. You could get some, but I don't think like there's not many good sources of high amounts of chaos damage except for like an Alberon's Warpath or something. But I don't want to go that route. So, and then 24% more damage with ignites if fire is the highest damage type. Fire usually is the highest damage type. It changes every once in a while. Uh, but yeah, apparently it doesn't think I do cold damage. I do a lot of cold damage. Um, let's see. We'll just go over our tree real quick. Again, I am a left side build, though I do kind of stay on the top just for this right here. I guess I could have gone down here, but I need Eldritch Battery just to solve my mana issues, because otherwise I would be running Life Tap, and that's not very good for damage, so you might as well. Over here, we have another core part of our defenses. We have a Glorious Vanity of Zabakwa. Just so we can get Divine Flesh. If you don't know what Divine Flesh does, it converts 50% of the elemental damage you have taken to Chaos. As well, it gives you some max res. It makes it so Energy Shield bypasses, or damage bypasses your Energy Shield. Not a problem for us because all of our Energy Shield protects our mana through Eldritch Battery. So this converts half of the elemental damage we take into Chaos. As you can see over here, we have a max chaos res of 82. I could probably get it higher, but it's not really important. And then we have it right here because we have some life and life regen, max chaos res, and life. And then we have where is it? Impossible Escape for Avatar of Fire, just so we can grab these two. And then this node, because, you know, why not? It's free defenses. This is pretty expensive. If you want, you can get a Impossible Escape for Mind Over Matter, and this is what I was doing, but I decided to switch it up just to save some points on the tree, as well as to get down here. Why do I have this taken? I don't know. That's inefficient. I should change that. But you can put it right here. Right now I have a Watcher's Eye there, and do this as your Divine Flesh. As well as an Impossible Escape on Mind Over Matter. That'll get you access to this node, this node, this node, and this node. And then you also have easy access to like this one and this one, which get converted. All of which can give you max chaos res. They can give you life. They can give you percent fire damage, that kind of thing. A whole bunch of really good stats. Other than that, we just have like a little bit of life. I think total amount of life is about 90%, so really not a lot of percent life on this build. You don't really need it. Your max hit is, you know, mine is at about 11k. If I have flasks up, it shoots up to 15k. A lot of that comes from your ascendancy, and a lot of it comes from your armor and your divine flesh. My cluster jewels are really simple. This one's a little bit inefficient. I have Sadist, Prismatic Heart, Widespread Destruction. prismatic. You would want smoking remains instead of prismatic heart, just because prismatic heart ends up over here. You don't pick it up anyways. So you would rather have smoking remains. So I have two smoking remains sadist. It doesn't matter what you get as your suffix notable. You can get Doriani's widespread or the other one, which I don't remember the name of. Maybe it's on this one. No, it's not. It'll always end up in the back when you have smoking remains and sadist. I crafted these myself. I always craft my cluster jewels myself. The only one I didn't was this one, and I bought it for like 2 divine. It was not worth 2 divine. You could probably buy these probably around like the 2 to 4 divine range, but they're easier to craft. You just alt spam until you get suffix notable and prefix notable, and then do your regal. If you want, you could annul and exalt. I do that sometimes, but it's really simple. There could be more efficient pathings. I'm not entirely sure, but this is what I like for now. Some other notable things to take note of is this golem commander, this node right here, 100% necessary for that +1 maximum number of golems. That's how we get 3 golems. One is obviously chaos for that percent physical damage reduction. Here, we can even show it right here. 5%, that gets scaled up by both the effect here, so that's 80% effect because each have 20. And then this one right here, it's another 100, so it's 180% increased effect, as well as another max golem and resummon. This is also very important. So if we look here, this 5% gets scaled all the way to 14%. We have Stone Golem of Safeguarding. As you can see up here, it's at 42%. This makes it so melee damage you take in gets taken by the Golem instead. It's a pretty nice, it dies pretty quick. But it is up for a fair amount of the time. It can save your butt, is my point. And then we just have a regular Stone Golem for the life regen. Life regen is it's one of my main forms of recovery. We'll go over the recovery in the build in a bit. But as far as the important things on the tree, Golem Commander, just so you can get those Golem effects. Your Golems are a massive part of your defenses. They respawn every 4 seconds when they die. They're not up all the time, especially on a really rippy map. They will die pretty frequently. Good thing they respawn. So if you want, be careful, especially if you're playing on hardcore. I would not say this build is hardcore viable, but if you were playing on hardcore, yeah, just be careful that your golems aren't dying. Some other things, we have regen 1 life per uncapped fire res. Normally that would make me want to get my fire res way higher, but I'm kind of limited in terms of gear, and I'm trying to push damage on my gear as much as possible. Rest in peace, Capicerto. I don't know how to say his name. Maybe I got it right. We have some mana reservation, as well as 8% per aura. We have 4 auras. Well, 3 auras and a herald, but that counts. So that's 32% free increased damage. You could do the 1% Ellie res. Probably not bad at all. You could probably also do the 20% reservation efficiency for life. Get you a little bit more life. This is more damage. I need to POB how much damage exactly. I would probably say around 3 to 5% increased damage. We have our Watcher's Eye here. 6% additional fizz reduction from determination and life recovery from vitality. The only really mandatory part of this is the life recovery from vitality. Just because not only does it scale your life regen, it also scales your recoup, which isn't the other recovery that I have. And then the 6% additional physical damage reduction while affected by determination is just pretty nice. I wonder if I divine this, if it changes that or if it just changes the value, because I might want to divide that. Because it looks like I can get 2% more and then 5% more there. We already went over our timeless jewel, over these. I have a few tattoos just because I have a little bit of extra strength. This is all just fire damage. And then you can see I'm taking endurance charges. We do have 5 endurance charges on this build. It adds a nice layer of 20% reduced physical damage taken and 20% reduced elemental damage taken. It's pretty nice. Oh shit, look at that. I can get rid of you and take my flow of life back. Nice. Um, just some normal damage node, like right here, we got damage, we got damage, we got damage. We do go resolute technique. This is mandatory unless you want to try figuring out how to solve your accuracy problems. I couldn't be bothered, and elemental overload is useless because I have a 5% crit chance. I do not crit that often, so it's not going to be up very regularly. Keep in mind, I attack once every about second. Depends on how long Fist of War is up. So it's really, there's no point in taking this. You're rarely ever going to have it up. The last notable thing to talk about would be the Light of Meaning. It's just percent fire damage. I bought it for like 60C. The fire damage ones are not expensive. And this one gives me, let's see, 3, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. What is that? 102% increased fire damage. So it's pretty good. It's not bad. It's more than these. Is it? That's 40, 60, 95. It is more than these. It's pretty good. Next, we'll go over our gear here. We already went over our weapon just because that's like the main thing. Like when I saw this enchant in the teasers, because it was one of the teasers that was teased, my brain immediately was like, ah, yeah, Shaper of Flames. I know what I'm doing this league. And it's working pretty good. Next up is our helmet. We're using all armor bases because, again, we are stacking armor. I think we're at 20,000. Oh, look at that. That's higher than I thought it would be. 20,000 armor at the moment. You can get it up. This can get armor on it. I had a better one, and it didn't have the right reses, and I forgot that you can change the res with the harvest bench, and I sold it. Sold it for 4 div, which was, is nice, but it's it could be better. We have our helmet here, just armor, life, regen, some fire res. And then for our implicits, we have fizz damage taken as fire, as well as fire recoup. This is just a little bit of extra fizz max hit. According to POB, it reduces your effective hit pool, but I think the effective hit pool on POB is bait, so I don't look at it. Next up is our amulet. Pretty simple life, a little bit of armor. The percent increased elemental damage with attack skills does, I'm pretty sure, actually increase your ignite damage. I could be wrong about that. POB tells me it does, so I have no reason not to believe it. This is just because we need a little bit. Oh, we don't even need the stats. That's nice. And then we only solo steel. It's just more armor, a little bit of max elemental resistance, because again, why not? It's pretty good, and the armor is really good as well. It's a bit of an expensive anoint. You can go with a different one that gives you more armor. Dealer's preference kind of deal. Some other really good ones that you might want to check out is Settling Ash. Basically cover enemies in ash if you haven't moved. It's pretty easy to do, especially like on the things that matter, which is bosses. Most of the time they can't kill you, which allows you to stand still for long enough. Maybe not pinnacle bosses. I don't really do pinnacle bosses though. Another interesting one is Hit Stun is dealing 50% more melee fire damage, as well as ignites from stunning hits. Melee hits deal 20% more damage. Pretty sure during mapping this is just 20% more damage, especially on your leap slam, because that stuns, almost guaranteed. Let's see here. Damaging hits always stun enemies that are on full life. See? And that's pretty good because you do have ignite proliferation. So those are some interesting ones to look at. You could do like Warcry stuff. You could, do like charisma, or you could do this guy here, or this one here. It's dealer's choice. Pick your poison. Next up is our armor. This one I'm happy about. It's the first time I've ever double corrupted anything myself. We go with the 4th vow here. And as you can see, I had the double corruption, by the way, not necessary. really nice. It gives me about maybe 10% more damage, 8% more damage, something like that, as well as a lot of tankiness against crits. Um, you could get plus 2 AoE, plus 2 duration. Um, that's a really good one because that's even more damage. That's up to like 15% damage or something, or 16, or I don't know. This is really good. Just makes your armor apply to your chaos damage. So that's why we stack armor, and that's why we take Divine Flesh. It's a classic combo. You've probably seen it a bunch. Otherwise, just armor, ES. This is where we get most of our ES. Pretty much all of it, actually. And then the rest is just percent scaling from int, as well as a little bit of regen and chaos resistance. Next up is our ring. Here I have a Calandrid ring. This is really nice. Specifically, so the 2 to 33 lightning damage is like average of 17.5 lightning damage. Doesn't really matter. Energy shield doesn't really affect it. The only thing that you would be concerned about is your energy shield regen, but it's high enough for me. Max mana, we don't have anything that reserves a flat amount of mana, so this doesn't matter. Strength and dex, very much needed. This has a high strength requirement. The armors have a high strength requirement. So we do want to make sure we have a decent amount of strength. We're at 220 right now. I think we could lose a little bit and we'd be fine. And then the big one that I was really looking for is the 26% of damage recouped as life. We also have 30% on the tree, as well as the life recoup takes place over 3 seconds. This also gets combined with the 10% increase from vitality of life recovery, giving us about 61.5, 62% damage recoup occurring over 3 seconds, meaning every time we get hit, 20% of that hit gets just converted into regen. This on top of our already 1500 regen, 1400 regen, is pretty good. For the most part, like, I do use my flask every once in a while, mostly for the bleed immunity, because I don't have bleed immunity on the build. I don't have corrupting blood immunity. You could get it. I used to, because I used to take down here and I had the mastery. You can get it on a jewel or something. But the recoup, I would say, recoup is underrated, especially if you have, as a secondary form of recovery, if you have other forms like regen or leech, recoup is amazing. Really good. This would work really well if I bought a Progenesis, which I totally could. My flasks are pretty simple. We'll go over them in a bit. I might even be able to replace like a life flask with a Progenesis. But I could probably afford it, but I don't know. I'm not super interested in doing that right now. That's my first ring. It's just a coral ring. The base doesn't really matter. The life is nice. And if you can obviously get life on this, it's even better. Otherwise, I would say go for a cogwork ring with stats and res and recoup. Pretty simple. Next up is our other ring. As you can see, it's a gold ring. That was just because I didn't want to spend $10 on this fracture, because it's fractured with curse enemies with flammability. It's not very well rolled at the moment. I was kind of down bad on currency when I was rolling it, and I really needed the dex, right? Yes. And I needed the lightning res. And it gives me 43 life. Just crafted that on there. Pretty simple. I could probably get that higher. Other things you would want to go, obviously recoup would be amazing, but in my setup I can't, because I need the lightning res, and flammability is a suffix. Obviously better life is good. Percent elemental damage with attacks. Flat added damage to attacks is also really good. You can do leech, not that you're really attacking that much, but the leech, I have about 400 per second for leech. Yeah, curse enemies with flammability, that's the main thing. I just don't like casting things. I like pressing one button, This just allows me to do that. This also has good synergy if you decide to take Profane Bloom with Forbidden Flesh and Flame, which I almost totally forgot to talk about those, because I do have some. I'll show you what they are in a bit, as well as the other small cluster nodes, which are mandatory. small and medium. We'll go over those after we go over the rest of the gear. But you could get Profane Bloom. That works really well with your curse enemies on hit. That makes your clear immaculate. But also you have really low life and your melee, so you don't get stunned a lot. Or so you do get stunned a lot, sorry. And being stunned is really annoying. So we solved that with our Forbidden Flesh and Flame, and I'll show you that in a bit. Next up is our gloves. Really simple. This is where we get our fire exposure. You could do a higher tier fire exposure. I only do tier 1. It doesn't really make much of a difference. I think if you were to get it like really high, it would be another 4 res reduction. It's not that big of a deal, especially because you already have a crap ton of res reduction from Mastermind of Discord, because it does another 25%. Pretty good. And then fire damage over time. That's the implicits. Again, the gloves could have been better. I had better pair, but these are really simple. Fractured life, some res, some chaos res. Simple. Stygian Vice, I do recommend always getting a Stygian Vice, just because you never know when this is important. Like, you might need stats. I have armor and shock avoid. That's the main thing. A little bit of life and attack damage. This is actually a pretty good jewel for me. But this is pretty simple. I bought a hunter, not a base. I just bought this belt as is. I did divine it, I think, a couple of times just to get this life modifier up, just because it was at 7, and I was like, I don't want 8% increased. So I took the extra 2. But it has some chaos res and a little bit of lightning and cold res, and obviously a bunch of life. Boots, pretty simple. These boots are, they're okay. Bunch of res, some life, a little bit of armor, and a little bit of movement speed. You have your chance to avoid shock there, really important, because we are running a Storm Shroud. That's how we get our elemental ailment immunity. Otherwise, increased armor from helmet and gloves, not bad at all. That's given me, an extra 480 here, more than 480, but rough, and an extra 130 something here, something like that. And this used to be at like 1k, but it's obviously not anymore. So it was giving me like an extra 300, but not bad. Again, really simple gear, probably lots of room for improvement. I could get triple resistances, boots, and 30% life and more armor and stuff. I could definitely improve my gloves. This could use improvement. This isn't that bad, but can definitely use some improvement. You can get life recovery rate on here, which would be really good with the recoup again. Obviously, I could get better prefixes. I could get better prefixes here. This is pretty good. Like, the lightning damage is unideal. This was actually really simple to make as well. I think I actually bought this item, and then I slammed it with a Hunter Exalt and got the fire damage over time, because I'm just lucky like that. It's pretty cool. But it's all really simple gear, probably pretty easy to replicate. I would say the investment into this build is maybe, other than the weapon and the armor, 20-30 div. If you include the weapon and the armor, that shoots up to like 200, but or 170 or something, just because this is expensive to buy, this is expensive to make. But other than that, really simple. Next up, Flask. Again, this is just for bleed immunity, and also it's nice, when you get low, it's good to have that security, especially like if you're not paying attention, you could be bleeding, and then all of a sudden you're not having any recovery. So it's pretty good. This is just, it doesn't even have a good suffix. You don't need the chill and freeze avoidance. You have that through Storm Shroud, but it does have 2 charges when you're hit. It's up for 9.6 seconds. It's just 20% more armor. This one gives you % increased armor, move speed, pretty normal. 15% of damage from hits is leached as life during effect. Not bad at all. Kind of like Recoup, but it is limited by your maximum, life leech per second. So if you're hitting regularly, it doesn't really do much. But it's also the only craft that I had. I would rather have 3% regen, but I just don't. Otherwise, Silver Flash for Onslaught, just move faster. And then finally, Granite with movement speed and charges on hit. Obviously, you can switch up where the suffixes are. Um, they're pretty much up all the time, especially during maps, um, which is pretty much all I do. You can do pinnacles on this pretty easily, especially if you're a good player. I'm not a good player. First time I ever killed the pinnacle bosses was actually in Total League with Frostblink Ignite. Who would have guessed? Um, so I don't really know the mechanics very well, but I did solo all of my pinnacles, and I got all my void stones on my own. I didn't buy any carries or anything. Um, in terms of DPS, not on bosses. It's like at 7-ish mil. And you can look in the POB as well. 7-ish mil with convergence up. And convergence is just our last ascendancy node here. Gives you 30% more elemental damage for 4 seconds once every 8 seconds. So it's like 50% more damage. And then when you don't have it, you get a bunch of AoE, which is super nice with Earthquake. As well as Leap Slam for that matter. Really nice quality of life there. Yeah, the last few things is my Abyss Jewels and my regular Jewels. Nice Abyss Jewel here. You don't need the crit multi. There is probably an angle for Perfect Agony with this build if you want to do a right side build, but again, I think right side's kind of silly. Why would you do that, especially after damage conversion has been nerfed? I just don't see the point. And then it has the 35% chance to avoid shock, very important. We have another one on the tree here with more chance to avoid shock, as well as some added damage, some armor, and some damage with Mason Scepters, which, surprise, surprise, we use Mason Scepters. This is actually a nice amount of DPS right here, as well as some tank with the armor. And then right next to it, we have our Storm Shroud. That's how we get our Elemental Ailment immunity. We're at 112%. Not bad at all. Then we have our Forbidden Flesh and Flames over in this cluster jewel over here. As you can see, Vile Bastion. Vile Bastion, for those of you who don't know, is an occultist ascendancy point. It makes it so you gain increased regen of your energy shield per enemies killed recently by you or your minions, as well as you can't be stunned while you have energy shield. You always have energy shield no matter what. Your energy shield doesn't take damage, so it's always regenning. Yeah, you spend it, but it doesn't take damage, so you're all good there. Possible escape, we already went over that. We went over this guy. We went over the Light of Perandus and Watcher's Eye. The other last two that we have, just some I've dropped a +3 life synth jewel, and I decided to craft on it. The craft could probably be better. You don't need the strength and dex, but it's not bad to have. It's got some percent life, some attack speed, which is really nice. The attack speed is super quality life. Some burning damage, not bad at all. And then we have a really nice jewel over here. Percent armor, percent fire damage, and then damage over time multiplier. Again, self-crafted. Mostly lucky self-crafted, it took me some time, probably maybe a couple thousand alts, but, all regal, exalt, that kind of thing. Definitely pretty good. And then just lastly, our 2 remaining cluster jewels, which again, these are mandatory, the notes that they're giving you, the notables, for the build to feel good. First one is a small armor with enduring composure. The other stats don't really matter. I got some dex, some mana regen. Mana regen definitely doesn't matter. Some life is nice. But the main thing is enduring composure, which gives you an endurance charge every time you've been hit in the last 4 seconds. Really nice. This is how you get your your endurance charge generation in maps. You can use Enduring Cry, but it's like, why would you? I only use it for bosses where like I feel like I'm not going to have much uptime. The second one, only one of these is mandatory, and that is Fan the Flames. For those of you who don't know, Fan the Flames is literally just ignite proliferation, and it's pretty good ignite proliferation for that matter as well. And then I just have Flow of Life, which you saw earlier. It's just a nice node. Some damage over time, increased damage over time, some regen, some life. Pretty simple. Last thing to do is to just go over like what skills and stuff I have. Again, Earth Quake is going to be in our body armor here. We have it at level 21 because again, melee skills scale pretty well with their levels now. Specifically in the effectiveness of added damage. They don't gain flat damage like spells do, but they gain effectiveness, which is essentially, flat damage. Especially coming from this, because this is a shit ton of flat damage. This is like, what did we say, 700, and then multiply that by 1.35, or 2.35 actually. I'm doing math in my head. 1,600 flat damage on this. So pretty good. And then you get more flat damage from other sources, which I will show you. It's linked pretty simply. Burning damage, Fist of War, definitely a best in slot Fist of War, just the 100% more damage. It's up every pretty much second, so it's pretty good. Awakened elemental damage with attacks. You don't have to do this. You can do regular elemental damage with attacks. When I get this to level 5, it will allow me to do elemental reflect maps because it grants no damage taken from elemental reflect, which will be really nice. That opens up a modifier for me to do on maps. We have cruelty, just because you are hitting for like 240,000 damage per hit. You regularly have max cruelty effect. Especially in maps. Maybe if you were doing a boss, you would want to swap in deadly ailments, but obviously I don't have the colors for that, so I just don't bother. And then we have Swift Affliction, which is just 49% more damage over time. It's Awakened. The Awakens are really cheap. I bought this at level 1. I leveled it myself, but at level 1 it's like, I don't know, 45C or something like that, probably less at this point. And then less duration is really nice for your Earthquake because it shortens the secondary duration of the main thing that does damage, being the Aftershock. And that's the reason we're using Earthquake, is because even though it only has an effective addedness of about 250%, you multiply that by 2.8 with the Aftershock when you have 20 quality, and that's insanely high, 500.8 of whatever that is. I don't know. Numbers is 700% effectiveness or something. I don't know. I'm not good at math. That's a lie. I am decent at math. Next up, Summon Chaos Golem. Already went over our Golem, so we won't talk about that too much. We have Vitality on Arrogance, just because we can't fit it on our normal mana pool, as well as our Stone Golem here. Ideally, you would have your Golems in the same setup, and you would replace Smite with like, Minion Life or Meathead or whatever, something to make your Golems more tanky. Smite's good for added damage because it gives you 12 to 220%, or not percent, but just damage. Not bad at all, but not the most useful. Not mandatory at all. I only use it on bosses just because while I'm waiting for my Fist of War, I'm not attacking, so I might as well do something. Seismic Cry, not necessary, just gives you some nice AoE and a little bit of armor. You don't really rely on the armor buff. It's mainly just for the AoE. It's pretty good. We have our Summon Stone Golem of Safeguarding. We already went over what that does, so pretty nice. Enduring Cry, again, same difference. Then we have our Leap Slam over here with Shockwave. Shockwave just so we can hit a wider area of effect. In terms of damage, it's fine. You might not even need the Shockwave. I haven't checked with I just haven't checked. We have faster attacks just to move around faster. This is mostly quality of life. Awaken Swift Affliction because I had one. Yeah, I think I actually had two because I was doing destructive play earlier in the league. Elemental damage with attacks and burning damage. I would probably want to get this to be awakened as well. Okay, I'll do that. Next up, Blood Rage. This is just for mapping. Gives you some attack speed. Gives you endurance, or not endurance charges, frenzy charges while you're mapping, and bosses that have ads as well. Yeah, it's pretty nice. Doesn't really cut into your regen that much. Pretty good. Malevolence. More damage over time. The increased skill effect duration is not ideal, but it doesn't really make it feel that bad. The Earthquake. Determination. Again, really simple. We're scaling armor. And Herald of Ash, really, really, really good. You do 38% more burning damage. So that's 38% more damage. And then you get 20% of your physical damage as extra fire. I don't even feel like I need to explain that. Obviously, it's really good. This has a lot of fizz damage. That's how you're scaling most of your things. And that enables it for Shaper of Flames to do 25% more damage for Ignite. Or it should regularly, at least. Yeah, that's pretty much the build. It's pretty fun to play. It's pretty quick. Most maps I can do in like 2 minutes. I do Delirium maps 2.5 minutes. I do Delirium Strand, which I have another video on. You can go check that out. Link not in the description. Maybe I'll put a card. Who knows? But yeah, that's really it. Nice build. Again, probably around 7 million DPS. On bosses, probably closer to 4 or 5. Ubers, I don't even know. Tankiness is pretty good. Has nice recovery. Gear can use some improvement. I am trying to think about how I would incorporate avoidance into this. Maybe doing some sort of shield weapon swap setup for mapping, but I'm not entirely sure. We'll see. Yeah. POB Payspin will be in the description, though. And thank you for watching.